Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
So, pretty please, with sugar on top.
I think we should officially declare 1981 the year of the wolf. I don't know how many people are aware, but there were actually 4 werewolf or wolf-related movies released in 1981. It's pretty crazy to think about that there was 4 projects all around the same subject matter being developed around the same time. I'm hoping to review all of them at one point or another during this year, but today I'm going to start with, because it's the 40th anniversary of this movie, The Howling. Full disclosure, this was my first time watching this movie.
Jesus fucking Christ, it's about time!
And I gotta be honest, it wasn't exactly what I expected. In fact, I'd venture to say that actually this movie's pretty fucking weird. But I'm going to elaborate, of course. So it's directed by Joe Dante, who, if you don't know, was the director of Gremlins, one of my personal favorite movies. And I guess from that, I was thoroughly expecting, werewolf mayhem, similar to what we get in Gremlins. And I kind of figured there would be a blend of horror and comedy in this movie, which there is. The Howling does get points for this. It's a werewolf movie with a unique concept. I had no idea that it would dip into this secret society realm that it does in this movie. I think it's an interesting twist on this concept. Just the fact that there's a small population of these creatures kind of inhabiting this little resort, that's actually a pretty scary thought. Like, imagine taking a vacation and not knowing that's what you're walking into. And that's pretty much the premise of this movie.
That makes sense.
What actually first threw me off, though, was the beginning of the movie. It opens up in this big city, and we have this newswoman, played by Dee Wallace, who is the mom from E.T., and she's involved in this little sting operation with the cops to try and catch this active serial killer. So eventually, he lures her to this porno shop, and again, the whole time, the cops are listening. Little side note here, to me, this was like a foreign concept. Like, just the idea that back in the day, you had to pay to sit in a booth and watch porno movies, and basically you're just confirming to the shop owner and everyone in there that you're going in there to abuse your noodle. It's just crazy the lengths at which you had to go to do that, I guess, back in the 1980s.
You're jerking your dick like a goddamn pilgrim!
It's actually pretty hilarious when the newswoman walks into the shop and all the guys clear out. Like, they're all embarrassed to be seen in there, and the shop owner gets all pissed off, and I gotta believe that's how it actually would be. Anyway, long story short, there's a confrontation inside one of the little porno booths, and the cops end up shooting the serial killer. So throughout the course of the movie, Dee Wallace's character is basically traumatized by her interaction with the serial killer because he was kind of attacking her. He was making her watch this video where this chick was getting raped. So there was a lot of crazy stuff going on early in this movie. So this leads to her and her husband going to this retreat where she intends to have therapy. And spoiler alert, it turns out everyone at this retreat has a big, hairy secret. They're all fucking werewolves.
A what?
A lot of this movie seems very weird and random. One of the characters in particular is like this nymphomaniac she-wolf character, and she basically hits on the husband and then entices him and they have sex, and she ends up turning him into a werewolf as well. And this kind of leads to my first little bit of an issue with this movie. The first transformation into a werewolf that you see on screen is kind of underwhelming. Considering the reputation this movie has and what I was thinking going into it, I guess I was just expecting a little bit more. I think the second transformation scene that is later in the movie is actually done much better. There's less cutting away for each stage of the transformation, and you really get to see the special effects better, which have honestly aged pretty well, because practical effects usually do.
Goddamn right, that's the only way I work, Cap.
What made this second transformation a little bit ridiculous, though, was that Dee Wallace's character is standing there and this guy's transforming for like 3 minutes. So it's this long drawn out process, but she's just standing there being scared, and it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me why she wouldn't just run away. I will say this though, the fully transformed wolf and the way he looked with the practical effects, it looked fucking awesome. Like, they made the look of the wolf very menacing, and I dig that. The best effect shot to me, however, was the severed werewolf hand that actually turns back into a human hand. Like, you actually see it transform on screen. There's no cutting away or anything like that. It was really well done.
I like it a lot.
There wasn't as much blood and gore that I thought would be in this movie, considering it's a werewolf movie and it's in the 80s. I think they were leaving a lot up to the imagination, which I get because it's possibly done to mask some of the limitations you had from a filmmaking perspective in 1981. Now, don't get me wrong, they did a lot with what they had and they did it well. I think the most horror moment in the movie for me is when there's a character who's basically stuck in this small cabin and she's being terrorized by a wolf that's outside of the cabin. There's actually actually another moment in the movie where there's two characters in a car and the car is being swarmed by a bunch of wolves. That's pretty horrific too. But I kind of felt like the horror elements of the movie were few and far between, and that they leaned into the comedy a little bit more than I thought they would. A lot of the characters who are at the resort are very campy and goofy, which was done on purpose to reinforce the dark humor angle that they were going for. I think I would have preferred a much more straight up horror take on the concept.
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
The ending comes after Dee Wallace has escaped the colony, but she wasn't unscathed. She was actually bitten before she left, and she turns into a werewolf during this live news broadcast. I think the coolest part of this was how they showed random people who were watching TV during that time and all their reactions. It actually kind of reminded me of the end of They Live when they knock down the satellite tower and everyone sees the aliens for who they truly are.
This one, real fucking ugly.
But it was kind of cool to see all these different people's reactions to what they just seen. This crazy thing happen on television. In fact, most of the people actually thought it was a publicity stunt and they were doing it with special effects. The moral of the story is, I guess, don't believe everything you see on the news, even if it's a straight up werewolf transformation. I'm assuming this had to be some kind of commentary on the media and how the public views them. Overall, I have to be honest, I wasn't as impressed with The Howling as I was hoping to be. For me, it felt a bit uneven at times with the tone shift going from horror to comedy. I thought it worked in some instances and then didn't work in others. I admire the attempt to tell a unique story with werewolves involved in it. I just don't think the execution of how they told the story stuck the landing for me. I didn't hate it, and I'd be willing to give it another shot and maybe look at it through a different lens this time. But for right now, I'm going to have to give it the Careless Sam Gerard.
I don't care!
So if you've seen The Howling, I'm sure you have. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, and I'll see you next time right here on Real Shift. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Y'all be cool. Shut up.